Well, when I landed, James didn't hit me right away. And then a linebacker from inside, I kind of saw him on peripheral vision and just kind of leaned back and they ran into each other like, oh.
Welcome, everyone, to a special segment of TIGERTV featuring a very special guest. Please welcome Consensus All-American, First Team All-SEC, Florida Georgia Hall of Famer, University of Florida Athletic Hall of Famer, SEC football legend, 3-time SEC champion, Bowl Alliance national champion, 7th overall pick in the 97 NFL draft, and 12-year NFL pro, Ike Hilliard.
Wow, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. All right, so we did our research on you, and we saw that in your high school days, you played multiple positions. You played quarterback, wingback, free safety. You excelled in all of them. You had 737 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns your senior year, 310 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns, and even 45 tackles and 5 interceptions.
Man, that's crazy.
So excelling in all of these positions, what made you decide to play wide receiver?
Man, it's crazy you have high school stats probably from my worst year. I think for me, coming out of high school, I realized, coming from a smaller school in Patterson, we had maybe 438 kids in our school, and graduation class of 78 kids. Wanting to play football at 171 pounds for me, running back / wing back or quarterback wasn't the way to go. I was pretty highly rated at DB. I was a free safety. And my sophomore year, my junior year were probably my best years there. My junior year, I had 15 interceptions and, put me on the map. But I saw Jerome Bettis and Natron Means and, a lot of those bigger backs that were 230, 240 pounds and decided that defense wasn't for me. So I wanted to move to the offensive side of the ball, and I never played wide receiver before. But I thought I'd excel there, and that's kind of what led me there. Also, my brother played free safety, which was cool for me. He was at LSU, and I just wanted to be on the other side of the ball. So to do that, and I have the opportunity to play against him, hopefully, really resonated with me. So being a smaller guy, wanting to compete against my brother, and not having to hit 240-pound men running really fast at me was kind of what led to my decision.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it turned out pretty well playing receiver.
Okay, yeah.
So, and can you walk us through your recruiting process and why you ultimately decided on Florida?
Okay. My recruiting process is a little different. I mean, this was, quite a few years ago. It started in 1993. Like I said, I had a bunch of interceptions at the free safety position. And there were enough schools, coming out, but they were all smaller schools because, we were a smaller high school. But I found a way to splice old VHS tape together with my high school coach, and we sent the high school highlight tape out to about 50 programs. 13 wrote back, and we decided to narrow it down to about 8. So we did, and for me, wanting to play wide receiver and not play DB, playing right away was very important to me initially. So the top 2 schools that I communicated with back and forth pretty regularly with ended up being the University of Pittsburgh and the University of North Carolina. It just so happened that at the time North Carolina had Johnson & Johnson. They were running an option. But there was also a kid in the state of Louisiana that committed to play quarterback there that I played AAU basketball against. It was a kid named Chucky Parquet. And the University of Pittsburgh, there was a coach there by the name of Ken Karcher, who recruited the South down there. And he had familiarity with the area because he also recruited my uncle. So He had been around for a while in terms of coaching. And that led me to commit to the University of Pittsburgh. But it was mainly for an opportunity to play wide receiver right away because I had no wide receiver tape. A lot of people didn't, really understand me wanting to make the change, one, and then understand how I fit in their program by not having the film to back up, what I wanted to do. But those were the top two schools initially. And then Florida called 3 weeks before signing day. And they allegedly, quote unquote, had, some miscommunication with the recruiting department. And they offered me an opportunity to take a visit there. So I jumped at the chance to do that. And getting to Florida, the style of offense they used was obviously primarily a passing offense. And they just lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game. So they were a top 15 program. So that was obviously, intriguing and appealing. But after the visit, and seeing all of those dudes open on the highlight film, 4 and 5 wide receivers out there, I was like, man, if I can get some of this, it'll probably work out, better than the situation in Pittsburgh or in North Carolina. Well, the following week, Coach Spurrier was doing the Southern tour, and he ended up stopping in Patterson, ironically, which, we had no idea, but, he popped up. And because the Hilliard name down in Louisiana is pretty synonymous with football, I had an uncle played in the league for 9 years with the Saints. Like I mentioned, my brother played at LSU, and I had also had 7 cousins who played at LSU as well. So Coach Spurrier looked at me and was like, hey, Ike, shit. We already have the 5 guys we wanted, in terms of commits, but, we allow you to come to the University of Florida to play wide receiver. Or better yet, to come as an athlete, not wide receiver. We'll start you at wide out, doesn't work. We'll move you to DB. And I was like, Coach, you don't have to worry about that. I'm not hitting anybody. So he offered the following week, signing day. They sent the scholarship. They sent the offer, obviously. I signed it, and the rest is history.
Interesting. And was LSU being in your home state, was that ever in consideration? And your family went to LSU?
Being the black sheep that I am, there are people that still hate me in Louisiana for going to Florida till this day. But everyone in my family, they're big LSU fans. They absolutely hated the decision, which is fine with me. I loved it. It was the right decision for me. My situation, everybody's different. But growing up, obviously rooting for LSU and the Saints and, all the teams that are in, your home state you usually root for when you're younger. I just went to LSU, and I knew that I had to do something different for myself. And also Coach Hallman, who was the head coach there, Curly Hallman, and I hate to throw him under the bus, but I told him I wanted to play wide receiver, and it's like, you're not going to play wide receiver here. You're going to play free safety. Your brother's going to play strong safety, and that's how it's going to be. And I politely said, Coach, no, it's not what I'm going to do. So I wouldn't say I have a deep hatred for LSU, but I'm glad I made the decision that I made, and obviously it worked out well.
Yeah. And so while at Florida, you had many memorable moments. You went to the Sugar Bowl. You won the national championship, 3 SEC championships. What stands out to you at Florida?
We kicked a lot of ass at Florida. We did. There's so many memories. I'm really blessed with that situation. So many. Obviously, getting a great education. I met my wife at Florida. We won a lot of football games. I'm one of the few people that probably can say that I only lost 4 games in 3 years. Yeah, we were pretty good, man. At every game, I think our head coach had a mindset that he wanted to score at least 50 points, which was pretty fun for us as an offense. the 3 years I spent there, at least, well, I'll just say it this way. Every year that I was there, we were at one point the number one team in the country. Coming into the program in 1994, we were predicted to be one of the top 2 teams in the SEC. We ended up losing to an Auburn team that was on probation in 1994. And then we lost to, we tied Florida State at the Choke and Doke in 94. And then we lost in the Sugar Bowl. So that was the toughest year from a win-loss standpoint that I had there. Was my freshman year. And it was just an amazing experience because we won a lot of football games. Had a lot of relationships there that were made that, I still have today. We played in 2 national title games. The following year, sophomore year, we were undefeated and lost to, whom they say is the best college football team to ever play in Nebraska in 95. Wish we can have that day back. And the following year, we lost at their place at Florida State, and then got a chance to beat them in the Sugar Bowl for the title.
Yeah.
But,
in a game, you scored 3 touchdowns in.
Pretty cool day for me. Personally, it was because the prior game at Tallahassee was probably the worst game I ever played in my life. And we turned the ball over 4 times at Doak Campbell. I was a part of 2. And we lost by 3 points, against a team that we should have handily beat.
Yeah.
So we needed a little help. The next couple of weeks, I played so poorly that Coach Spurrier, he benched me for the SEC championship game for the first quarter. And then the guy that, I'm not trying to call names, I'm sure everybody could figure it out, but the guy that ended up getting the start was ineffective for a quarter. And, Coach looked at me, I don't want to play your ass, but go and get in the game. And so my first play, going back out there in the second quarter, you can look it up, was a corner route on the Shea Townsend, and I took it in for a touchdown, which is pretty cool. But that Alabama team in the SEC championship game is probably one of the best defenses to ever play in the SEC that doesn't get a lot of credit because of what we did to them. They had 5 touchdowns thrown on them all year. We threw 6 in one game. So we won that game. We needed a little help. Jake the Snake in Arizona State, they played against Ohio State, and they needed to win to go to the national title game, and David Boston ran a slant shake and killed their dreams. And then Texas, the unlikely hero for us, beat a Nebraska team in their championship game, and allowed us to go back to the national championship game against Florida State, and we beat them 62-24. And I got a chance to go home and play in front of my mom and a lot of my family and in my home state, and had 3 touchdowns that day. So it was a pretty cool experience.
It's a little bit of a homecoming.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But,
And in that game, you had probably one of the most memorable plays, the stop and pop.
yeah, well, that's what they call it. It's a lot of luck, man. We audible to a deep slant, and kind of scanning the defense. We knew they were going to bring pressure. James Colsey was the corner that was covering me at the time, and I ran a deep slant. Danny's fading away. He threw it to me. I had to leave my feet because the ball hung up a little bit, and I wanted to secure the catch, so I put it on my chest. Well, when I landed, James didn't hit me right away. And then a linebacker from inside, I kind of saw him on peripheral vision and just kind of leaned back, and they ran into each other like, oh. So, but it's more reaction than anything else. But it was a pretty cool move, pretty cool play at the moment, man, and just grateful.
Yeah, no, and then the acceleration to the end zone.
Well, when people run into each other, make it pretty easy.
Yeah. What was your 40 in college?
Well, I ran the 40 3 times. Because, believe it or not, I was probably the 6th fastest guy in the room, maybe 7th. They had some guys that could run. but my official time was 4:37. When I ran it my third time, I ran 4:47. I'm sorry, yeah, 4:47, 4:41, 4:37.
Wow.
Yeah, so it took me 3 times to get under 4:4.
That's
But I was slow compared to some of those Florida kids out there. They were running pretty fast.
yeah. I mean, that explains the 6 touchdowns against Bama. You guys were just insanely
We
fast.
were running all over the place. We really had a fast team. And I guess to give context to those who may want some, and I say we, the freshman class that came in 1994 at the University of Florida probably hit then like no other recruiting class because we signed 18 young men and 13 of us had a chance to play in the league. So it was a special group. A lot of talent, obviously, in that group, and it helped us win a lot of football games.
Yeah. Do you think winning as much as you did and the experience you gained from that and also the talent you were surrounded by in college, do you think that gave you like more maturity or more experience going into the NFL compared to maybe other rookies that didn't win as much in college?
That's a great question. Winning is a cure-all for a lot of things, for sure. But I don't think there are many things that can prepare you for what the league brings. It is an extremely long year. Those are grown men out there. It is a challenging game from every standpoint, physically, mentally, emotionally, hell, even spiritually. You know, you have to find ways to compete, against the best, on a daily in practice, to keep your spot or to fight for a position and then play that game that's extremely physical for that many weeks and sustain your level of play, and playing through injury and all that stuff. I don't think you can get that in many situations in college because it's just different. It's just a different experience. Now, it helped because we played more games because we were in SEC. You can get more adapted, per se, to a longer, grueling schedule that the NFL is going to bring. But the physicality is just so much different. You have to go through it and harden yourself as you continue to hopefully last in the league in order to build your calluses and persevere. It's just a different experience, man.
Yeah. And so leading up to draft day, what was your thought process? Where did you think you were gonna go?
Well, the draft process was extremely weird for me. We made the decision after, and I say me, Riddell Anthony and I, we made the decision that we were going to leave and go to the NFL after the second national championship game, more so because Coach Spurrier brought us into the office and he told us, look, you guys have won 3 SEC championships. You played in 2 national title games. You won 1. There's not much else that you can do here. And you don't get many opportunities to play in the NFL, have the opportunity to do so. So you guys need to go and explore that. So we were grateful for him for that. So from that point, it was just training, sharpening your skills, and trying to do whatever you need to do in order to try and gain an edge. And what was cool for us is that Troy Aikman, they brought a contingent down from Dallas, and they worked me and Riddell out. And Troy is one of the, best quarterbacks to ever play in the game. A lot of respect for him. And, that kind of gave us perspective on what, true quarterback play in the league looks like. So after that, I was fortunate enough to be told by Troy that they would have preferred, me to be on the Cowboys. So I thought for sure that we were going to be Cowboys. And, you lead up into the draft and, you stay out of the way, you stay out of trouble, and then you have your party, like we did at the little local spot in Patterson, and, you have fun, and, you buy out the bar and everybody enjoys it, and all of a sudden, I get a phone call my mom wakes me up and she's like, "Baby, it's somebody from the Giants." And I'm like, "Who?" And she's like, "From the Giants." I said, "No way." So I get the phone and say hello. Say, "Ike, you about to be a Giant?" I said, "There's no chance." And I hung up the phone. So they called back 2 minutes later, and the head coach, Jim Fossil, was on the phone. Said, "Ike, this head coach, Jim Fossil, man. We're going to pick you at the 7th spot. You're going to be a New York Giant." Excited? I'm like, hell yeah. All right, let's go. So I had no idea. And then, because we thought that we were going to go later to the Cowboys, but we ended up going to the Giants, and it was a hell of a day for us. But nothing special in between. You're just training because you don't know. You don't know what you're getting ready for. So all you're doing is, you're working out, you're running, you're eating right. You're praying, you repeat the process. And then you hopefully get that call, and you got the call. Well, I got the call on draft day, and then the next morning I'm on my way to New York City.
Nice. And I'm sure Patterson was like super excited for you.
Yeah,
or did they still have a grudge from choosing Florida?
All of that is, well, I made that decision. Obviously, they wanted me to go to LSU. We all have a lot of love for each other, obviously, except for one game a year. And there's obviously, banter back and forth, but, people came back across the tracks over to Mom's house and, supported and showed love, and they sent me off, and, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're gonna be mad forever. Like, I don't care. Like, Florida. I want Florida to win every time they play against LSU in anything. I don't care what it is. Like, it's just me. I didn't go to LSU, and they have to live and deal with that. And it's kind of cool once a year going through that.
Yeah. And then your rookie year in the league, did your teammates make you do anything? Because sometimes they make you buy stuff.
Yeah.
Did you go through anything?
Yeah. I had to, every Saturday, I had to buy the donuts. I had to buy the juice. For home and away games, I had to buy breakfast sandwiches every Monday for meetings for the coaches and for the quarterbacks when we came in. So, then you have your rookie dinner, where you have to take the group that you have, the wide receivers, and they buy whatever the hell they want, and they give you the tab. So I had to do that. Other than that, no real hazing. They didn't beat me up. They didn't tie me to a goalpost. I did have to sing. You sing some stupid songs when you get up there while everybody's eating in training camp, but that was really it. Nothing crazy other than that.
All right.
Yeah.
And speaking of your rookie season, was there any players in particular on that 97 Giants roster that impacted you or mentored you or guided you?
Man, it was just different for me. I was a kid that I'd never been above the Mason-Dixon line. So, I go from Patterson, Louisiana to Gainesville, Florida, and now I'm in New Jersey, New York. So it was different. It's cold and, all that stuff. But as far as players, we had a great group of, veterans and, younger players. There, I spent, as 8 years there, so it was a real cool experience for me. But in terms of players that, impacted, I mean, Mike Strahan's he's a pretty solid human, man, like all the way around. You can't say enough good things about Mike. He was finding his way, at that point to, being a Hall of Fame player that he is. He was one of the veteran leaders there, young veteran leaders there. A guy named Jesse Armstead, man, I still have a lot of love for. Jesse's in the Ring of Honor up there, and he's probably not going to be a Hall of Fame, but one of the toughest dudes that I ever laced up with and hit the field with. A lot of respect for Jesse, the way he played the game, the way he went about his business. Man, I can go on and on. There's so many dudes. I have a lot of respect for, Jason Sehorn and I can go on and on. Keith Hamilton. It was a pretty cool experience, man. I mean, my rookie year. I just hate that I missed it because my second game in the league there, we're down in Jacksonville. Second game, it was the first drive of the game, the fourth play. I ended up taking a hit, and I missed the rest of the season because of a neck injury. I lost my interspinous ligament, and my 6 and 7 vertebrae sprayed too far apart, so I had to get a pin and a screw in it to hold it, and I missed the rest of the season. So that was a challenge in itself. But, mentioning the guys that I did, Jesse and Stray and Jason, all those boys, helped me keep my head up, and we pushed through it and got back to the following season and pushed forward.
Yeah. Would you say, speaking of injuries,
Mm-hmm.
would you say if you didn't get injured, how good would you have been?
Oh, shit. The woulda, shoulda, coulda. I don't know, man. You deal with what you deal with. You play the cards you dealt, and you make the best of what you have. I had 8 surgeries playing, in 12 years. They all weren't major injuries, but my toe injury, my 2 toe surgeries, and dislocating my shoulder, tore my labrum from 1 to 6, and having an AC joint reconstruction on the same shoulder were tough to play with. But I miss so much football to where you just never know. I missed the equivalent probably of close to 4 years of football in 12 years, to where my numbers were okay. I was an okay player, but I probably should have been better. But I think for me, pushing through what I pushed through with, I had a phenomenal career, even limping around for 8 years. It's just different than everybody else's situation. But for me personally, I'm proud and happy of what I accomplished. You wish some things were different, but that's a hell of a deal to say you got 12 years into the league, And,
Yeah.
And we competed, we played well, played in the Super Bowl, lost one. And, you think you get enough talent like we had in New York. I was in year 4. You look and you think, man, you're going to be here every year. You're going to have opportunities to do so. We only have one, chance to win the Super Bowl. It's so hard to get there. That's why you're so in awe of teams that are in there a lot. You have to appreciate the greatness of the guys that do, because we only have one op, man. But, we had our shot. We put our best foot forward. We got beat by a better team that day. And you can't dwell on the woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
How was the Super Bowl like? Like pregame,
Man.
the emotions?
Well, I'm not trying to minimize it at all. We played in 2 national title games, so they were very similar in terms of fanfare and hype. Obviously, they're both national, events. The NFL Super Bowl obviously is more of a global event. Not saying that the national title game is not, but they were very similar in that way. So we were fortunate. Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to play in 2 national title games to where the Super Bowl wasn't overwhelming per se. It's a lot because, people want tickets, people want this, they want to be around, and you have to try and prepare. And, then they drag it on for 2 weeks instead of getting in and just playing the game, give you a chance to get healthier. But there's a lot of stuff in between that, will left to be desired. But really, really cool atmosphere, really cool game to play. I'm sure it's a lot better when you win. But I enjoyed the experience, no doubt.
Yeah. And in that Super Bowl, you played against Ray Lewis, one of the best defenders of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys game plan specifically for him, or like how was that like, knowing that you were gonna play in the biggest stage against like
the best defense to ever play, one of the best defenses to ever play in the National Football League statistically? It's tough, man. Going into the game, we had an older offensive line, and we felt like physically moving, Syracuse and those boys up front was going to be a challenge. And obviously Ray roaming the middle, and and Tony, eating up space, and you know, you have Darren Sharper, and I can go on to, you know, a list of guys that was on the defense, you know, him, Rob Woodson, McAllister, you know, good defensive players. Trying to find an advantage was tough because they were solid across the board. We just couldn't get much done that day. It's hard to game plan specifically for a guy, you know, in his prime like Ray, because there's not much you can do with him. It's like, you know, Jordan in his prime. You're gonna give up your 30 or 40, and you hope nobody else beats you. Ray was just a phenomenal talent, and we did our best to minimize him. We could, but you know that guy and that defense, they were too good for us that day. Yeah.
Did you ever get hit by him in that game?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't the first time I played against Ray. Yeah. So, you know, we bumped heads before. And like I said, Ray's a great player, man. And he will always be one of the measuring sticks for that position. Yeah. And, you know, it's fun competing against him for sure.
And then now moving to your decision to leave New York, what led up to that decision?
Well, I didn't play particularly well my last year in New York. It was Eli's first year there. It was probably my worst statistical year as a Giant, year 8. And, you know, I've been beat up at that point. And they wanted me to move into the slot and be a 3 because I started 8 years there. And you know, I didn't get the production that I should have gotten year 8. So for me, I thought a change of scenery was necessary. You know, some say I committed career suicide by leaving Eli, you know, but I played with Eli for 1 year. And I decided that if I wanted, you know, if I was going to be a third receiver, I would be a third receiver where I wanted to be. And we had the opportunity to come back down to Florida. You know, my wife was from Florida, to be back in Florida, get away from the cold weather as well, and, you know, change of scenery. And we took the chance and came down to the Bucks. And I enjoyed my 4 years there. And I was primarily the third receiver for 3 of my 4 years. I started one of those years there, caught 72 passes, played pretty decent. But that was really it. They wanted to move me inside into a full-time slot role. And, you know, I balked at it. You know, decided to leave. That's all. Yeah.
And I'm sure Tampa really liked you. John Gruden, your head coach, nicknamed you Third and Ike while you were there.
Yeah. Like I said, I was primarily the third receiver, and you know, I was pretty tough to deal with. You know, in the slot, you know, it's a different deal when guys know you're going to get the ball and you still get open, which was pretty cool for me, running a bunch of option routes, and I didn't do a lot of that in New York, so it was a very cool challenge for me to deal with, I led the league in third down catches for I think 2 of my 4 years there, maybe 3 of my 4 years there, which was awesome. I thrived in that role. And people give John Gruden the credit for calling me Third and Ike, and I'm going to set the record straight. It was actually Rich Bisaccia who started that. And Rich right now is the assistant head coach and special teams coach for the Green Bay Packers. I got a lot of love for Rich, so I had to do that. But Rich is the one who gave me the name Third and Ike, and John ran with it. But, yeah, man, cool for me to play in Tampa for 4 years. Met a lot of great people, you know, had a lot of great relationships where I played with some great players, man. You know, Rondé and Rondé Barber just obviously got in the Hall of Fame. Derek Brooks, you know, obviously is a Hall of Famer too. Simeon Rice, and I can go on with some of those guys I played with down there, man. Very, very cool group of dudes.
Yeah. And what led in 2008 to your decision to retire from the NFL?
I was old, man. I felt old at 32 years old. I'd gotten beat up pretty good. Kind of the last straw for me, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this on air. It was a Sunday night game against the Seattle Seahawks, and it's actually a YouTube hit, and I hate to say it, but it's true. The same route that I got hit by Jamie Sharper in the Super Bowl with, and Jamie tried to decapitate me, was the same route I ran against the middle linebacker from the Seahawks at that time. His name is Lofa Tutupu. Jeff Garcia threw me the ball. I beat Lofa, caught the ball. I turned around. Leroy Hill was the linebacker who hit me. Leroy hit me. Okay. I'm instantly asleep. He bends my face mask. He hit me so hard. All right. I hit Lofa Tutupu. Lofa Tutupu has a concussion. So my wife was in the stands. She has an absolute fit. And she wanted me to get out of the game. And that hit at year 12 was enough for me, based on how I felt. And I had some issues with my neck surgery. You know, at that point, I was doing some punt returning and stuff. I was just getting beat up. I finished that year, and they moved on because I looked old at that point in year 12. I had another opportunity to sign a split deal in Atlanta the following season and turned it down. It was time to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the toll, you know, the physical toll had taken too much.
Yeah.
12 years was a hell of a run.
Oh, yeah. And then you signed a one-day contract with the Giants
Yes.
before you retired.
Yeah.
Is that something you brought up to them or that they brought up to you? How did that happen?
A little both. Once you're a Giant, always a Giant. That's one of the sayings there. You know, they gave me a head start on life, man. They took a chance on me. I hate that I was beat up so much. I could have gave them more, but you know, it's still kind of a second home for me. And a lot of people still in that building that are there that worked there when I was there as a player. I was actually recently there about a month ago. A lot of great people, a lot of love for that organization, what they did for me, and it's like family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the hard hits you took in your career. Ooh. What would you say, who is a player that you wish you didn't play against?
Nah, I don't have any of those. Nah, I mean, you know, you know the violence. You understand the violence that you signed up for. And our game is a little bit different than the game today. But it's not like I feared anyone out there. We all played the game. We all played it physically. You know, you ask anyone, they know how fearlessly I played the game. There's no one out there that I wish I didn't play against.
Yeah.
There's some hits I've taken that I wish I would have taken, but no, not any dudes in particular.
Yeah. We saw a little clip of a hit Brian Dawkins had on you.
That cheap shot, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even have the ball.
Well, the ball that was a contract year too. I lost. Well, anyway, and Doc, he knew he shouldn't have hit me. That was actually Sunday Night Football at Philly in the vet. And we were kicking ass at that point, too. And that's where I dislocated my shoulder, tore my labrum from 1 to 6. And tell you how bad of a hit it was. He got fined $50,000 back then.
Wow.
So the league knew, he knew. He just took me out.
Wow.
Yeah. Part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then your transition from playing to coaching,
Mm-hmm.
what was that like? What led up to that decision?
It was easy for me. I think year 7 in the league, I put out there that, it's funny, I'm saying this again too, that my ideal job would be, you know, having the offensive coordinator job at FIU, so I can be at home with my family and, you know, get a bunch of kids down here in South Florida and score 50 a game like we did in college. But the way I processed the game, I always knew I wanted to be a coach. And I never took a break after playing. You know, right after I retired in 2008, the next 2 years, not even 2.5 months afterwards, I was coaching in the United Football League, and, you know, I've been coaching ever since.
Yeah.
But that's something I always, you know, wanted to do from very, very early onset of my career.
Yeah. And you coached wide receivers at many different teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Who were some notable players, some that stood out to you when you coached them?
Oh, shit. I've coached I was an assistant wide receiver coach in Miami, and we had Brandon Marshall, we had Devon Bess, and Brian Hartline. That's where I started. I got to Washington in 12, and I was a receiver coach. We had Santana Moss and Pierre Gonçalves. And then Deshaun came along. We had Deshaun Jackson. I had Jamison Crowder. And I coached Terry McLaurin his rookie year in Washington. Then, I spent 8 years up there in the Virginia, D.C. area. In Buffalo in 2013, I had Stevie Johnson. We drafted Robert Woods and Marquise Goodwin. Those two kids are still playing. Happy for them. Chris Hogan. We helped Chris Hogan get paid up in Buffalo. I had Chris Hogan before when I left in 2013. I think he left in 2015 to go to New England. He won 2 Super Bowls there. Chris is an extremely tough player, former lacrosse player. And then in Pittsburgh, my babies were, Juju Smith-Schuster. We had Deontay Johnson. By the time I left, Deontay was a Pro Bowler in 21. James Washington, Ray McLeod. We haven't had Chase Claypool. I had Chase's rookie year, and Chase is extremely productive for us. So I've been around some decent talent and kids that are still productive in this league. I know I'm missing a couple, and they hear this, they're gonna get at me, but that's okay. A lot of good dudes, though, a lot of good players.
Yeah, and your transition from coaching NFL to coaching college.
Mm-hmm.
How was that like? Did you have to recruit? Did you?
Yeah, it's different. Coaching in college is different. I didn't go through a full recruiting cycle there. They ended up firing the head coach there, and everybody moved on. But it's a different landscape. The kids in college are cool. I enjoy it. I may get back into it, depending on what opportunities present themselves. In a couple of weeks here, but those kids, they'll hold on to every word. I was fortunate enough to do what they inspired to do. So giving them an in-helmet perspective was real cool for them on a daily basis, and cool for me, to be around and try to help them out with the journey. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah. And how would you say it was like coaching during COVID, during a global pandemic?
Oh, man. With nobody in the stands?
Yeah.
Oh, it was awkward. It was awkward, but, you still play the game. It's kind of like you're in practice, and, regardless who's watching, you're still doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And, those kids made the best of the situation, but it's definitely a different feeling trying to push through with nobody in the stands, for sure. But that's when you can bring your own energy, when you need it, as a staff and as a team, and you find ways to win.
Yeah. So would you say there was less pressure on the team or more pressure because of the?
I think when it comes to playing the game, especially in a pro game, pressure's always being applied. You either have to minimize it, you have to, apply it, or whatever you have to do. But having people in the stands doesn't change the situation, doesn't change the narrative in that regard. We're still, paid to perform and perform well. So I don't think it affected the kids that much, or the coaches. It just made it different, in terms of not having, the crowd cheer on the defense, or having to deal with a snap count, that sort of thing. We still have to go out and perform and do what we have to do. Pressure's always there, though.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, you were part of the season where the Steelers started 11-0.
Yeah, and we lost to the Redskins. Oh, my God.
What happened there?
What happened? What happened that day, we didn't run the ball worth a damn. One, that young defensive line gave us fits. And obviously they had 4 first-rounders. Well, they had 3 first-rounders then on that defensive line. They're a young, formidable group. And we were on a roll, like you mentioned, 11-0. And we didn't play our best ball against a team that we should have chalked up a W against. And shame on us for that. We let them come into our place and beat us. But we didn't run the ball well. We didn't throw and catch well. We didn't tackle well. We didn't do anything well that day. And they got the best of us.
Would you say that loss affected the mentality? Because it's still the same team that had just gone 11-0.
Yeah.
So would you say it had an effect on the rest of the season?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. I think in the room that I coached, I know for a fact that we couldn't let that continue to affect us going forward. because we knew we were better. It's not like we thought we were better. We knew we were a better team than they were. And I think from a mindset standpoint, Mike Tomlin does a phenomenal job of not letting things linger. It's terrible that team in 21. In 20. That team was probably built to win the Super Bowl. One of the best teams I've ever been on.
Yeah.
Had we not obviously played our worst football in the first half against Cleveland and we not lose Bud Dupree the second game at home against Baltimore to a torn ACL, man, it changes our season. We'll probably make a run for it. Good football team.
Yeah, that team, they were being compared in the sense that they were undefeated. They were being compared to the 72 Dolphins.
Team was awesome. That team was awesome, man. There's no joke. That team was really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And, all right, and this isn't football related. One of the things that stood out to us is that you had a song with DMX.
Oh, my God.
How did that happen? Because DMX.
A long time ago, they used to do this thing called Rock and Jocks. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but they used to pair up athletes with performers. And obviously I'm in a city, and DMX and those boys are making their runs, and they picked an athlete, and I just happened to be that athlete. So I got in the studio with X, and they already had the beat done, which was cool, so we didn't have to go through sitting through, listening to tracks and picking one and all that other stuff. So X approved it before we got in there. It was a 2-day process, and it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my life, man. That's funny you brought that up.
Did you write your verse?
I wrote most of it, yes.
Yeah.
I wrote most of it. But X had one of his boys, in there, one of his young inspiring artists, so he can get credit for it as well. And he tweaked some things, but yeah, I wrote most of it. Yeah. Oh my God, One for All, that's funny.
And then
1998, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and now looking at the league today, it's a different league from when you played. Who would you say are some of your favorite players today in the league?
Oh man, I respect the game too much to have favorites. I like a lot of dudes for different reasons. I mean, I can be all over the place. What position? I'll give you kids by position.
Your position, receiver.
Justin Jefferson he's a dog. I love watching Justin play. A lot of respect for him. Love watching Cooper Kupp play. Two different animals, same results. Same system, per se, that I played in and coached for years, so I appreciate what they do. Tariq's special because he's different. He's just so different. He can't teach what he does. I'll leave it at 3 because I can go. There's so many dudes that I like for different reasons. I'll just leave it at 3.
All right.
Any other position? Or are you good?
Running back, because running backs now there's the issue where they're underpaid and they don't want to pay them. So, do you think that's warranted? Do you think they should be paid the way they are demanding?
I wish that I can have something to stand on there, because I can say that everybody's underpaid, including quarterbacks for different reasons. But the running back position, I hope they find a solution to help make everybody happy, because there's a way it can be done. I'm a big Dameon Pierce fan, obviously because I'm from Florida, and I wish they would have given him the damn ball more. I'm a fan of a lot of guys, though. I like Jonathan Taylor. And I said I would keep it at 3. Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
I like what he does.
All right. And last question.
Mm-hmm.
What words of advice would you give to anyone trying to follow in your footsteps, make it to the league, have a successful career like you did?
My footsteps, football. And life is hard in general. But I just mentioned it to someone downstairs. You have to beat on your craft. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. You have to spend time, and there's no cap on the time. It can't be, because you have to want it. You want to be. You want to be one of the best to do something. Got to work at it, and it's not. There's nothing easy about it, and a lot of it is done when no one is watching. So, at a very young age, for me, I stopped doing a lot of things, and after school, when I would get off the bus, I just start running. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. But there are certain things that I felt like I wanted to do or I had to do in order to give myself a chance. I didn't lift weights. That's probably part of the reason why I got beat up. But I was going to be the best conditioned athlete. I was going to be in the best shape. I was going to be faster than most. And that was going to be my edge. So I beat on that every day. Along with the other skills that you have to develop. So I'm sorry I'm getting long-winded, but to answer your question, beating on your craft is no substitute for it. You want to be the best mathematician ever, then you got to work at it. You got to do problems. Like, you got to do stuff that other people aren't doing. You got to figure out a way to do it. You got to do it more than them, better than them. You want to be better than stuff? Get in the gym. Shoot it. You got to shoot it and keep shooting it and keep shooting it. Find ways to do it, whether it's on the move, stationary, all of that stuff. You want to play football? If you want to be like me, be better than me and actually get in the weight room and lift weights. But you have to condition yourself. You have to condition your body. You have to develop your calluses. You have to harden yourself for an extremely physical game. And when you beat on your craft, it eliminates fear. It eliminates apprehension. It eliminates anxiousness because you're comfortable doing it repeatedly to where it becomes second nature. Then everything else is reactionary. So, sorry I got long-winded, but that's probably what it is. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for making it. It's been a pleasure.
No, I hope I didn't screw it up. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Thank you.